Hello and welcome to week 8 of Introduction to Data Science. So last week was all about data science ethics. We have some videos from me on the content to you on misrepresentation of data, data privacy, and algorithmic bias. But a bulk of the videos that you watched were actually by guest speakers, if you will, experts in this area who I thought would be really nice for you to hear from. I know that the video length exceeded what we usually try to hit on a weekly basis here. So if you ran out of time and didn't manage to watch some of those videos, I would strongly recommend that you try to do so at a later time, maybe this week, maybe at a later time, but I think that you'll enjoy watching them and learn a lot from them as well. I would also like to make a movie recommendation. So there's a movie that will, I believe, have the theatrical release here in the UK in January 2021. I don't know if we're going to be going to movies by then, but a lot of the speakers that you saw are are actually interviewed in this documentary as well. It's called Coded Bias. So if you come across it somewhere, or, if we are actually going to the movies by then, I would recommend giving it a watch. I have made lots of book recommendations last week, but this is another look at kind of the same topic of ethics and algorithmic bias, but in documentary form that I think many of you might enjoy. So what are we doing this week? This week we're going to be talking about modeling data. We first learned about how models can go wrong, and now we're actually going to learn about, well, now that we have this framework in mind, how do we fit models? So we're going to start by fitting models with a single predictor and multiple predictors, and we're going to be learning about a new suite of packages called tidy models, which, as you can imagine from the name, sticks to the tidyverse principle. So the coding structure is going to be very familiar to you. We're going to be working with pipelines again to build things, but this time, instead of building data pipelines, we're building models. We're also going to be focusing on interpreting model results, and that's going to be a big part of what we're doing in this class. So we're going to be working with predictive models as well. What we're mostly concerned with just getting our prediction right, but at the same time, we're going to be talking about interpreting model results and see, well, now that I've fit this model, what does the model tell me about the underlying data, and can I make any inferences based off of that? We're also going to talk a little bit about model checking and what are some remedies we have when our models don't necessarily fit the conditions for building these models. Another thing I want to talk about here in the Keeping Up video is what are we doing with our project. So far you've all gotten a round of feedback on your projects, and you have then, many of you have resubmitted your project proposals for another look by me, and you'll be receiving feedback on those very shortly, early this week. What's next? I would very much recommend, if you haven't yet done so, even though we've recommended this before, but I do also know the reality that students tend to really start thinking about this when they are working on their projects a lot more regularly. I would recommend you set up at least weekly team meetings. You'll always have something to do from this point onwards during those meetings, whether that's finishing up one of your labs or actually working on your project. So make sure that you get that on your books. As the end of the semester nears, inevitably you are going to have lots and lots of other deadlines, lots and lots of other stressful things happening. And if you have this booked on your calendar that this is the hour or two I'm working with my interdata science team on my project, then other things can be scheduled around it. It's going to become harder and harder as the last few weeks of classes go on to come up with an impromptu meeting time that works for everybody. And the last thing you want is being frustrated that certain team members are unable to make meetings, so things are not moving. So not everybody is getting really the worth of their time when they are actually meeting. Another thing I would recommend is obviously review the feedback from your proposals and think about what are the next steps you're going to take based off of that, and start outlining your 5-minute presentation. So ultimately, one of your deliverables, the bulk of what's going to be your deliverable, is a 5-minute presentation. In a couple weeks, I'm going to be asking you all to fill out a form to decide whether you would like to do that presentation live. So that would be during the Zoom call for our last workshop of the semester, or if you would like to pre-record it, and we'll give you instructions for doing so. Each of you have access to Zoom via the university, so all team members can actually just join a call and do their 5-minute presentation that way. Pre-recording would, if you are interested, give you the opportunity to edit things, but that is not at all a requirement for what you're going to be evaluated on. We're not going to be evaluating your movie making skills. We're going to be evaluating your data science skills. So a cohesive presentation, good visuals, as in good data visualizations, nice layout for your slides. These are obviously things that we will be looking for, but video editing is not. So we're not looking for any sort of fancy transitions or anything. We want to give you this opportunity to do pre-recording because, one, I know that time zone considerations make it hard for each person to be able to participate reliably during the Friday workshops. Another reason is that we want every single team member to be part of the presentation. So that's going to be your individual score for the projects will depend on whether you yourself have been able to present or not. So you don't just get to grab the points that the rest of the team gets based on the presentation. Each and every one of you need to speak a little bit during the presentation. And some of you might have internet reliability considerations or other things. So I don't want to put everybody on the spot saying that you must do all of this live. So some of you might choose to do it as a pre-recorded thing. And some of you might choose to do it just live and get it over with at the time. I'm happy to talk with your team and your tutors as well in terms of which one might be a better fit for you. We're going to still allocate a couple more of the workshops to work on projects, so you'll have opportunities for chatting with your tutors during that time as well. But this is something that I'd like you to start thinking about. One, outlining your 5-minute presentation. You have this proposal out there. Exactly how are you going to shape that into just 5 minutes, which, might seem very short and might feel like a lifetime. So it's somewhere in between the two. And also start thinking about whether you want to do pre-recording or you want to do it live during the workshop. Depending on how many people are preferring to do things live, we're going to try to schedule things. Obviously, if everybody decides they want to do it live, we're not going to be able to fit it into the hours, each individual hour each of the workshop groups has. So we're going to need to get creative about other times to meet. So I'm going to ask for that information from you well ahead of time so that I can organize things and give you the order in which you're going to be presenting. Whether you present live or you do pre-recording, each of you will also need to watch a handful of other presentations as well and then give feedback on those. And finally, I'm going to be linking to a video that is writing advice. It's a very short video, and it's one of my favorite pieces of writing advice. It actually comes from the South Park, the writers of South Park, the cartoon. And whether you like South Park or not, I think the recommendation is spot on. So instead of me rephrasing it for them, I'm going to link to that from the course videos for this week, and I would recommend that you give that a watch. It's about writing, but you can think about that as your presentation as well. And don't forget, part of the deliverable is also writing too. That's going to be your executive summary that goes in the README of your repository. And I'd like you to think about that. It's about 750 words, if I remember correctly. And that should be about how many words you can get through in a 5-minute presentation. So I want you to think about that executive summary as almost the text of what you're going to be presenting. It's helpful to write out such a text. You don't need to obviously stick to it word by word, but it's helpful to write that out so that each team member knows exactly what they're going to be saying and how long they're going to be talking for. And then you can basically use that as your executive summary. So we're not looking for additional model out, like our output or visualizations as part of your executive summary. We're genuinely just looking for a summary of what you did. And then from your project repositories, we're going to be linking to your presentations as well. Right. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the live sessions for the week. And as usual, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to make use of both my and David's student hours, as well as the math space hours we have available. And of course, Piazza is another great venue for those. Have a great week.